All right, I'm going to start our webinar and then I'll let you know when we can begin.
Thank you, Risa.
Crazy. You can sit here because, well, you're going to be speaking, so.
That's right. You're not elected yet. You're not going to be.
No.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah. So,
Okay, mute yourself now, Deanna's computer.
yeah,
Yeah, we're at my computer.
We're about to go live in 30 seconds or so.
Hear that. You go ahead.
No, it's
Can you
okay.
get
No.
my picture on there?
It'll come on when it goes live.
Please mute.
Oh, because I'm in the camera. Okay.
Thank you.
We are now live on HHTV. You may begin.
Welcome everybody to the December 21st, 2021 meeting of your Residence Council. I'm President Peter Shapiro, and I'm glad that you are joining us for this. We have a lot to say, and I'm hoping that we'll end with a song. So that's something to look forward to if the talking gets to be a little too much for you. Ending with a song, of course, depends on how nimble my brain and my fingers are at that point, but we will try what we can. We'll start the meeting with the customary presentation of the meeting, of the minutes.
Yes.
Connie, would you present them?
Yes, the members of the council have all received the minutes from the previous meeting, and they've been reviewed, corrected, and I now submit them for your approval.
Are any questions? May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
Thank you, Dick. Second?
I second.
Good, thank you, Audrey. All in favor, say aye and/or raise your hand. Both will do, one will do.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. The minutes of the November meeting are approved. We'll move on to the financial report. Diane Tinker.
As you can see, the figures for November are very good. Income, $11,414. Expenses, $5,884. So the net income for the month was $5,530. For the year to date, our income so far this year has been $54,437. Expenses, $40,052. So our net income for the fiscal year to date, it's $14,385. This is for 8 months. Our fiscal year starts on April 1st. The financial statements are posted on HH Connect if you would like to see the details. You can find them there.
Does anybody have any questions at this time? Great, thank you very much for the report and your constantly wonderful work, Diane. Appreciate it very, very much. We move on to what I call the year at Monday Market. I don't know if if you're seeing the entire text of the slides. But anyway, that's what it says. Cami Elbow and Susan Barish. I asked Cami and Susan to expand the view of the Monday Market for the year, as opposed to just what was happening this recent month, to give you a feeling, give us a feeling of what we have been going through in this second pandemic year. So take it away.
So, and we have the same amount of time to do all this, but just as a reminder, we started in COVID time We had to change a lot of things in the markets to keep apart from each other with plexiglass and with little stickers on the floor. We had a limit on how many people could come in. That's behind us now. And I must say we're thriving. We've been making a good income recently, especially November and December. Each week, we've been averaging about $2,000 a week in November and December, which is astonishing. Yesterday, we made $2,700. People were just dying to shop, especially friends and family of residents. We can't have the public, but we have residents. And I just want to remind everybody that the Monday market, it's a big operation, and it relies on about 40 or 50 volunteers who are working behind the scenes all the time. We have a crew that processes the clothing 3 days a week, people that process the housewares and furniture 3 days a week, people who bring donation bins down 3 times a day. We have people who polish the silver and the brass and do the jewelry and check all the electronics and polish the furniture, take what we can't use to Goodwill. I can't even think of them all. There's also, of course, the salespeople on the floor who are nice to the customers and help them. The cashier crew, which is a major crew, they count all the, they take the money, they package things up. The bookkeepers come in at the end of the day and they count all the money and they take it to the bank. So we would not be anywhere without every single one of these people, and we thank them all. And we are particularly excited with the new co-directors who will take over on April 1st, Jennifer Stucker and Barbara McCard. So we're grateful to them as well as everybody else. And we're grateful to you all who shop and who donate and participate in any way. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thank you all.
And Susan, and you still have 5 minutes if you want to use them.
I only use 2.
Well, Cammie's pretty much covered it. We have had a pretty spectacular year considering how much time we've had to pull back and the restrictions on all of the outside shoppers. We've also had a tremendous amount of publicity. We've had 2 television programs dedicated to our Monday market, and we've had quite a bit of interest generated by that. Cammie got one phone call from a woman who lives outside who saw us on television and saw Cammie standing next to a brown hat that she wanted to purchase immediately. So it's our fame is spreading. With that, we also want to remind people that we are taking a little mini break. We are not working this week through the Christmas holiday. The donation bins are covered, and there are little signs on the donation bins that ask you please to hold donations until December 28th. So we would appreciate that if you would be mindful of that. And then our next day of operation will be January 3rd. So we do wish you all very happy holidays, very happy New Year. And I think we all need a happy New Year. Thank you.
We'll vote for that for sure. Let me see a show of hands, those people I can see who have seen the 2 videos that Susan just talked about.
See both.
The television.
Television shows, yeah.
Yeah.
One was a morning show, one was the evening show.
Right.
Would it be possible to get that link around publicized a little bit? Maybe Mike, could you ask marketing to make that?
Yeah, marketing does have that. And actually, the second video, King had so much response to the first video that they were eager to do the second one. They wanted to come back for more. So it caused quite a stir.
And I heard today that they want to rebroadcast that too. So it would be repeated. That's good. And I do believe it's available on HH Connect, but I'll double check.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, they're both very good. Congratulations to you guys for putting on such a good story on television where so many
The
people.
story was the market, and it was its own story.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you. Okay, I'm going to now turn the podium. Is it a podium, Mike? No, I guess not. We're going to hear from Mike, our executive director.
So I just I just want to confirm that Susan and Cammie are not retiring from the Monday Market because of the fame that has now created a reality TV show for them, and they're taking their careers in a different direction. Hopefully that's not the case, but you never know. Well, the year isn't completely over, but there's a lot more of it in the rearview mirror than out the front windshield. And I thought I would just kind of recap a little bit of things from the year. And, you know, as you just reported with the Monday Market, you know, flexibility and the ability to kind of just muscle through and find ways to make things happen, I think has kind of been the overall tenor of how we've done a lot of things here this past year. We weren't driven by COVID in the same way we were in 2020, but it was still punctuated by COVID. We had in independent living 4 resident cases throughout the year. We had 9 staff people, a couple of people in assisted living, and 5 staff cases in assisted living, which is a lot lower than what we had in 2020. Certainly attributable to the nearly 100% vaccination and booster shots that were administered through mostly through Virginia Mason. And that just speaks volumes to how we stay safe in this environment. And we sure hope that that is going to be the case going forward. I think we're probably learning to live with something that we were hoping would just go away, but it seems to be a variation on a theme. So we were able to manage pretty well, but it's not gone from us. What did punctuate, or I should say, kind of drove a lot of 2021 for us is the impact of COVID. And that impact was really felt in 2 ways from an operational standpoint. One is a paradigm shift in the labor market throughout the world, the country, the state, the city, and right here. Fewer people choosing to be in the workforce, either because they were moved out and retired early, or they had aha moments and decided they wanted to do something different. And then fewer people of those people that were going to work were choosing to come into senior living. And this looks like it's going to be an ongoing challenge for us for some time to come. And we had 25 positions that didn't get filled, not because we didn't pay enough, not because we didn't want to, but because it's just a very difficult marketplace to attract talent. So that is going to be an ongoing challenge for us. The other part was the supply chain impact. You know, we had big delays on getting cabinets and sometimes appliances and materials to do our build outs, which stretched things out. Lots of food stocks weren't available. Our food service team often had to go to the grocery store to get product because the truck didn't show, because they didn't have drivers for the either Cisco or Charlie's Produce or Peterson's Fine Foods. And they would have to zip out in order to literally get the supplies to make meals. And residents have been incredibly patient with the kind of quasi buffet that we've been doing because we haven't had the serving staff, and I really appreciate that. It's not exactly how we want to be doing it, but again, everybody's been improvising to make it all work, and that I think is something that is unique to our community, and how we all pull together in our various ways to kind of make it all still work. Some other things that kind of took place in 2021, we did kick off a master planning process, which we shared with residents, and varying degrees of opinions. They still keep coming in, and we expect that throughout the question box, we'll have more sit-down conversations and talk through the parts of these things. They happen out throughout the next several years, so the only things that are immediate right now will be getting Anderson Hall off the ground, which my hope is that it's mid to late February. And then we'll be moving on to other parts of the plan in 22 and 23 and forward. We'll also talk strategic planning next year. We have some growth ideas that we want to share with residents to kind of get people appreciative of what some of the why for growth and why that matters to our organization and to all senior living organizations. So we'll be having some meetings about that in the not too distant future. as was mentioned, we've done more external marketing. We not because we've got this big crisis we've got to solve. It's just that we want to broaden the awareness of the type of community that we have. And the best way to do it is not to go out there and advertise like you see on the Sunday paper in the Murano or Skyline or Mirabella, but to tell a story. To tell a story of real people doing real things in an authentic place. And I think that is another uniquely distinct difference from us and our competitors, who tend to share more of a I don't want to say fictitious, but it's not as authentic and real as what we're doing. When we have Susan and Cammie doing the Monday market, it's about people who live here and how people truly live their life. So when you walk in the door, what you see is what you get. And I think that's a great statement for Horizon House. We did get some projects done. The salon, notwithstanding controversy, is a much appreciated new design. The Fireside Lounge, again, had its controversy, but I think it's largely successful. And my expectation is that the other things we do will be controversial and largely accepted and enjoyed once they get done. So the Sky Lounge has been one of, we have a few projects that have been the bane of our existence. The Sky Lounge has been one of them, and this project was unearthed when we redid the roof on the central tower, and we had a lot of water leakage coming in through the side of the perimeter of the Sky Lounge, and that was because it was not designed and or constructed properly back in the 80s. And the challenge there has been the engineering required to have safe scaffolding for them to actually do the work. The engineering of the solution has been a secondary issue than the engineering of the scaffolding. And who would have thought that? It was not done correctly, and we had to be redone, and then there were other delays, permitting and whatever. So this has been something that has gone on way too long, and we hope that that is getting kicked off here in late February, early March. The other is the Central Tower refresh. We have a fair amount of engineering that we need to do.
Please mute whoever is on the phone.
Are you hearing me?
We're hearing somebody's answering machine.
Okay.
Oh.
Thanks, honey. Again, my number is 321.
The Central Tower refresh, we've been systematically doing the laundry rooms and trash rooms, and hopefully those are appealing to folks, and we'll get on with the rest of it. There's a fair amount of engineering related to how we deal with some of the plumbing in the Central Tower, so that when there are shutoffs to fix certain parts of the radiant floor heating, we don't have to drain the entire system, but we can isolate the issues to a single floor or a stack. So those things have been worked through, and hopefully we will get busy on the actual updating of those hallways and the lighting and the carpet and the paint and some of those engineering things. Campus security has been a big topic for 2021, and it's going to be our topic going forward. I'm pleased to see that downtown Seattle is looking a little bit better. Some of that will accrue to us. Freeway Park is looking a little better. The street on the west side of the parking garage for Freeway Park is looking better. But nonetheless, we're going to have a different part of the design, or different design for our front lobby, so that we have a better chance of making sure that the wrong people don't get in. And we also need to have different security systems for our card keys. So we're looking into that. That's a major league project. But we want to get that scoped out so that we can ultimately bring a better system that's more manageable and controllable remotely, so we can give access to what is needed and to prevent access for that which we don't want. We had some department reorganizations, and I think that those seem to have gone pretty smoothly, and people have been appreciative of how reception has changed and how we've gotten a little bit of that drama down to a more manageable level. We've got a new communication manager who joined us about 3+ weeks or so ago, we will build a department around it. One thing I can say that for us and for, I think, senior living communities in general, we have underappreciated the real importance of having a dedicated communication department. We've often said, well, so-and-so, can you pick up that? Can you do this? Can you try a little bit of that? And what happens is you just don't get the cohesiveness of communication that you need. So we're hoping to build this around Joan and to have someone who is a dedicated communication professional to understand the communication requirements of the organization, the channels in which we communicate, the content which fits best in each of those, the prioritization, and then the communication to residents about how these channels are best used to keep you informed. So we're going to try to be a lot more organized and a lot more improved in that area in 2022. And let's see, we still had some party fun. We had, Retirement Community Week, our Halloween party, our holiday party that you also graciously put on. So we did get a few fun things in there, notwithstanding some of our restrictions. So hopefully we're going to have fewer restrictions in 2022. We don't know, but the one thing we do know is that we're responsive. All of us, staff and residents, we're nimble. We try to figure out ways to live with difficult circumstances, and we try to make it so that life here can be as normalized and fun as possible, and a lot more fun than being somewhere else. That's it, Peter.
You're absolutely right. This is a good place. It still is a good place. People weather the storms as they come across the horizon or Horizon House, and we're still going. We're still going strong. Thank you, Mike, so much.
All right. Thank you all.
I'm going to have the next slide up here in a second. And it's a slide that says a bunch of things, all related to Elizabeth Hoover and Judy Ostro. The first part is the Employee Recognition Fund report, a very successful year. Judy was in charge of the employee party. She can tell us a little bit about that. And then Elizabeth, who will be president next year, has a modified meeting schedule to announce as well. So please proceed.
Well, it's a pleasure to report to you the spectacular results of this year's Employee Recognition Fund drive to recognize the service and dedication of our employees. Thanks to all of you who contributed so generously at 92%. And the grand total of contributions received at this date is $462,800. The gift checks were distributed at the party for the employees on December 9. $255 was the smallest amount given, and the largest was $2,550 for the full-time employees. Contributions are still coming in, however, but those received after the cutoff of November 15 are being held for the drive next October. So we've concluded, folks, a significant campaign to encourage the retention of our employees at Horizon House. The success of this event demonstrates the gratitude of our residents for our employees, and we can be assured that our employees are grateful. Let me tell you, I was told that our assisted living employees were even dancing in the halls upon receiving their gift checks. It's important that you know how much effort goes into this once-a-year campaign, and it is the only fund drive that's sponsored by the Residents Council. The work is accomplished over several months, even though the appeal is made for only 6 weeks. Many residents volunteered and were involved and gave their time in working behind the scenes to make this campaign proceed flawlessly. And I counted 26 volunteers who served during the drive to prepare the mailings, process your individual donation checks, create the gift checks to employees, and distribute them. The effort especially required generous collaboration between our Horizon House administrative staff and our volunteers from among us residents. So Councilmember Judy Ostro chaired our party that was formed just to hand out our checks and to give our employees a special time at this season. And Judy, tell us about the many participating volunteers with whom you worked to arrange that joyous party.
You're on mute right now.
Well, the party, yes, of course, they come for their checks, but it's always fun to surround that with a bit of a celebration, an additional way to thank and recognize our employees. And they came in with smiles, and they left with, as Elizabeth says, dancing. As you all know, the traditional party is held on a Sunday, and the employees bring their families, and we have a full range of activities, which are a lot of fun for everybody. Well, for the last year, and then again this year, the big family party has not been possible. So we've given a party light, but we've done the best we could. And we had a number of committees. The two committee chairs did a brilliant job. They just stepped up immediately and carried through. And we had someone doing decorations, cookies. This year we could do home-baked cookies, which was a lot of fun for many of the residents. We had candy, we had gift bags, we had gifts created by resident Patty Flowers and many volunteers. And then the OK Corral asked if they could sing. And of course we said yes, and that added to the atmosphere. And everybody loves popcorn. The fragrance of popcorn kind of draws the people in. So I have to give our committee chairs were dedicated, brilliant, and competent, and all the people who worked with them did their job, and it was just as best a party as we could manage. So many thanks to everybody who participated. Do you have any questions about it?
I'll just say the party and the drive were just showing what this community does, what it can do, and it's just spectacular. Thank you so much, Judy and Elizabeth, for that great year with the drive and with the recognition party. And Elizabeth, you can continue with the announcement about the change of calendar.
Yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity to make clear to everyone listening that our regular monthly council meetings in the new calendar year will continue to be held on the third Tuesday, but we're changing the time. 11 a.m. will be the hour we will meet live in Anderson Hall until further notice. Of course, when Anderson Hall is closed for renovations, we will then be able to meet in the Sky Lounge, but I make it clear that those meetings as well will be held at 11 a.m. on the third Tuesday of the month.
Okay, very good. Thanks for that announcement and the arrangements that went into it. I know we're pressed for facilities and all sorts of logistic problems, and this was a good result. Good solution. Next up is Vice President for Administration, Audrey Whitecamp. I spelled it correctly this time, Audrey. You should be very happy. And following the theme of maybe talking more than just about the immediate, Audrey can present maybe some of the favorite Q&As that she had.
I'm very happy to. I'd like to give you just a little rundown or roundup, whichever direction you normally think, about the questions that I answered this year. First of all, I'd like to mention the question that got the quickest response from the staff member that I contacted. And that was raising the temperature of the changing rooms in the women's changing rooms by the swim pool. The answer from the engineer was, oh, sure, I can raise the temperature. Are they really cold in there? And he very quickly did that. The question that got the information the quickest, but the long range effect was the poorest, was my question about the heat control in the central tower. Those of you who don't live in the central tower will be, I think, surprised to learn that if we get cold or hot, we call our downstairs neighbor because the radiant heat is in the ceiling and it tends to go up instead of down into the room that we're living in. This is maybe next year we'll get it taken care of. It got to be a much more complicated problem than they expected. The question that actually might have changed the Horizon House culture a little bit was when I was asked, how is the lunch in the dining room different than dinner? And when I explained that you got table service in the lunch, you not only had your choice of the specialty, but you could pick out other things on the menu. A lot of people were surprised at how different it was. And if you've had lunch there, you realize it's gotten to be very popular. It's a nice time, especially if you're bringing guests in. The question that got probably the most reaction from the audience was the question, are the toilets in the public washrooms ADA acceptable? I never thought that my role as Vice President of Administration would involve me going around into the public washrooms and measuring the toilets, but it was my duty and I could report that yes, they were ADA acceptable. Now, the questions I like most to try to answer, honestly, they were all of them. It gave me a chance to talk to different members of the staff and to realize how very cooperative they were in giving the information and trying to keep us happy. And I have a little confession to make at this time. Occasionally, when I said the question was submitted by a resident, you're looking at that resident. Thank you very much.
Always got a solution to any problem, and what a great range of Q&As you've done. Thank you so much for that, Audrey. Okay. The Residents' Council president, by tradition, provides a year-end report at this December council meeting. It's been quite a year, so I asked 3 colleagues to help me out, to talk about it and help me out. To start the process of creating the annual report, our dozens of program and activity committees send in summaries of their activities during the year for preparation of the report. And what a compilation it is. Reading the reports in one gulp, so to speak, provides powerful testimony that our committees remain vibrant, creative, intellectually active, and dedicated to the enrichment of our community. A year of frequently changing conditions required us to be flexible and innovative. Some committees combined recorded material followed by a Zoom and recording all of that for later showing on HHTV. Another technique was to record an interview using Zoom with playback later on television. And Zoom webinars allowed us to continue our tradition of candidate and issue forums on matters coming before us as voters. So Susan Corning, Marian Anderson, and Beth Davis will join me in providing a few brief samples of some of these programs and activities. I'll start with the liaison committees and then turn it over to them in series. The liaison committees bring residents and members of management together for conversation on matters affecting the community. They jointly produce programs and present resident views on matters such as communications and dining services to management. So the Dining Services Committee, for example, encouraged the use of organic produce, vegetarian menu items, and reduction of use of beef products. The Communications Committee was the birthplace of the Low Vision and Hearing Challenged committees. which surveyed resident needs in those areas and produced programs such as a workshop on sensory and cognitive challenges of aging. The Event Support Committee spent considerable time very well spent, consulting with our architects on revisions to Anderson Hall that will result in significant improvements in technology, lighting, and acoustics. And I'll tell you, I have the highest respect for the architects. They are going to produce a wonderful product. I was fortunate to be in a lot of those meetings, just listening and watching the dynamics. The Wellness Committee presented a fall prevention fair in the fall. So it was a fall prevention fair in the fall. And the Chapel Committee was able to resume Vesper and Taizé services. Up next here is Susan Corning to report about activity rooms and entertainment committees. Susan? I'm not at gallery view. Okay, you need to unmute, please, Susan.
Sorry about that. Okay, so much has been offered by our various entertainment committees this year that I can't do them justice with this summary. So with apologies in advance for skipping over too much, I'd like to give a shout out to the Wednesday Night Live Committee, which puts on about 40 musical programs each year. Musicians don't usually film their performances, so the committee had to work with them to get the equipment and the people that they need to create these programs, especially for us. It's been a new learning curve for everyone. Musicians performed from their homes, their yards, in church spaces, and even a wine cellar. Creativity has really been key to the entire year. The Opera Committee was also able to have a successful year. Their popular lecturer, Dr. Theodore Deacon, gave 3 lectures, which were very well received. In all, this committee sponsored 4 virtual recitals, 2 live recitals, an opera film on 370, and 4 opera lectures. The Friday Night Films Committee and the Saturday Night Movies Committee have entertained us reliably every weekend, all year long, with films and movies from a variety of genres. And the Sunday Musicale Committee has sponsored Sunday afternoon concerts with varied and much appreciated programs. Some of the programs are audio and visual combined, and some are just audio. Down in the B2 rooms, activity rooms, a lot has been happening, even though it's not as visible. Just to highlight a couple, in the art studio, where it has been impossible to bring in outside instructors, the members themselves invented a series of sessions on subjects like collage, acrylic painting without brushes, drawing, and lantern making. These sessions have been very popular and well attended. And also the studio launched a joint project with philanthropy to produce art for cards that philanthropy will distribute. The Sewing Committee has been working throughout the year in COVID-sized work groups to sew quilts and warm clothing for families in homeless shelters in the neighborhood and around the Seattle area. The Sewing Committee produced 70 sets of children's flannel pajamas with t-shirt tops, 34 sets of fleece hats and mittens and scarves, and 34 gorgeous quilts. And lastly, just a special thank you to the Wrap Room Committee, who've kept us supplied with everything we could wish for in holiday wrappings.
Thank you, Susan. Wow, that is a lot. My gosh.
Yeah.
My gosh. Thank you for that wonderful report, for the content and for your presentation. The Environment Committee sponsored a dozen programs on HHTV, and later in the year, 3 of them were live in Anderson Hall. Neighborhoods presented more than a dozen programs via Zoom with a guest presenter and discussion with residents, all recorded and replayed on HHTV. National Concerns presented many important movies on HHTV and recorded a Zoom interview with Representative Pramila Jayapal for playback on HHTV. That was a real scoop. Let's Talk Science continued to program fascinating films, and the State Tax Issues Committee had presentations by guests followed by conversations with residents, all recorded on Zoom and subsequently telecast. Mary Ann Anderson will take us to the next segment. Go ahead, Mary Ann.
The next segment involves games. I love my gamers. The games range from anywhere from the old standards like poker, bridge, Scrabble, Rummikub, to the more exotic mahjong, both Asian and American, or the Mexican trained dominoes that were started last year by Sue Shaw. All these groups, of course, suffered from COVID and the shutdowns that ensued, but they were remarkably resilient. And they're again playing right now and are looking forward actually to growing their numbers. So if you're interested. The pool and ping pong tables on B1 remain open to everyone all year. And a very interesting area to me involved the puzzlers. The puzzle tables seem to be a quiet, welcoming oasis from the stress of COVID. Puzzle tables on B1 remained open 24 hours a day, and they averaged at least 24 puzzlers a day who would drop by to spend a few minutes or longer. I would say that games definitely contributed to the social life of Horizon House. Then moving on to the art committee. It took 20 members to handle the art committee activities, all of them this year. Lectures, films, programs, both live and online, all enriched our fantastic art collections at Horizon House. Residents loaned pieces from their own collections for the art cabinet, which I think you all know, it's down by the orchids, and you all know where the orchids are, and the picture of the month, which is by the dining room. But the capstone of the year was a resident and staff art show. This year it featured photography, both film and digital. And I think you may all know that the committee's special gift to us is their self-guided tour of the Horizon House art, which is just a gem. Check out the tour from the library. You'll be glad you did. Thanks, Peter.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Mary Ann, for bringing that information to us. It's, again, one after another, more inspiration about what this community means. Thank you so much. Our library, and one of our gems, was able to reopen in February and resume purchasing books, and now also provides space for the collections of 4 committees. Diversity Awareness presented programs via film, Zoom, and live in Anderson Hall. And it also organized a 6-week study course, encouraging people in small groups to examine their racial attitudes and assumptions. Secular Humanists provided weekly videos on HHTV, followed by Zoom discussions that were open to all. And we were fortunate, very fortunate, to be able to resume having our Memorial Day and Veterans Day programs live in Anderson Hall. When the days came up, the hall is available. It's wonderful. I think that's a symbol for us. There were strong moving programs with full houses of appreciative audiences. Beth Davis will tell us about assisted living committees.
Well, you can already see and hear that Horizon House residents love their committees. So of course, there are 5 committees that have various ways to go to the 2nd and 3rd floor and engage in activities with the assisted living people. The first, I'm going to list them in no particular order. The musicians enrich the lives of our friends every week with various scheduled and unscheduled varieties of music and a wide variety of different people doing different things. The Flower Committee has forever gone up to one of these both floors, a couple of times a week and put out artistic displays of arranged flowers, just the way another committee does in our first floor here in independent living. The escorts, their special job was to go up to assisted living whenever there was some interesting event that was going to happen in Horizon Hall. And they would assist down to Horizon Hall the people with mobility problems, wheelchairs, unsteady on their feet. And then after the event, take them back up. The activity helpers did a whole variety of different things. Some would put on baking events for the people in assisted living. Others would help when our wellness program put on exercises, and they would go and help individual people manage the bands and such. They did just so many things. I don't even know what they did because I was never one of them. And then the 5th one is the friendly visitors. And their aim was to get up into assisted living and have regular visits in person with whoever their friend or new friend they made just to be part of the activity. All of those, of course, took a deep hit when the pandemic came. But all of them found some way to continue at least some of their activities all through 2020 and 2021. And now, as assisted living opens up to us, these committees are going hooray and getting back into their full work. Now, if you're interested, they're all looking for extra members.
Well, with the membership they had, they've done marvelous things, and with more members, they'll be able to even provide more wonderful services to our friends in assisted living. Thank you for leading the charge on that, Beth. It was a wonderful report to hear. We're almost finished. The Welcoming Committee mentored 30 new residents and updated its guide for new residents. 92 people attended new resident mixers. The summer picnic was a huge success after a forced year off. Its theme was Follow the Yellow Brick Road. And I'm happy to report that the person who came in costume as the Tin Man does indeed have a heart. The photo committee missed the fun of taking pictures at the traditional family Santa party. We look forward to that next year, we hope. But they took lots of photos during the December employee appreciation party that Judy described to you. Anderson Hall and the Fireside Lounge were packed for the fabulous Halloween party, the great work of about 24 people. The K Corral, as you heard, made a comeback after being shut down for so long at that party, and they are meeting for preparing rehearsals and preparing for more concerts. And finally, but quietly, the work of two committees provided year-round flowers in our public spaces. Someone mentioned that already. And these wonderful holiday decorations that we see around us. Great thanks are due to Horizon House management and the many employees who provide superior support for these activities. It would take a long time to name names of all who have helped us to be what we are, a resident-driven community. But I must name at least one person: steady, dependable, knowledgeable, always there to pick us up if we should stumble. That person is, of course, our superhero, events and programs manager, Risa Ransom. Thank you, Risa, and thank you all employees.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, you are so welcome. I'll miss being by your side on these Tuesday afternoons, but there'll be other things to do. Let's see. I think I have time to sneak in the poem, and I hope you don't hate it. Okay. Where to go? Where to go? Maybe they're trying to hide it. Some poetic thoughts from our faithful reporter and distinguished poet laureate of worst verse, Doggerel Pete. There are 2 years covered. The Dateline, Anderson Hall, December 15, 2020, a year ago. Twas the month before COVID, and all through our house, everything was so placid with nary a grouse. When soon through our country routines would all shatter, and everything normal would become just a tatter. Quickly now to the rescue, our great management team created a task force. Oh, was this all a dream? It soon would be over, we thought, in a flash, but nothing to happen. Our hopes would soon dash. So what do we do now? What did we do back then? Just stay in our room? Oh, you all know the answer. We learned how to Zoom. Resident council committees soon got into gear. We won't let that darn virus ruin our year. And so it continued, we thought, just a while, we'll buck up, we'll bear it, and wear a brave smile. We'll roll with the punches, taking all with a plum, sharing faith with each other in a good year to come. Flash forward to today. It was for several months beginning this year that things seemed to get better. We all had good cheer. Yet the virus still carried a mean trick or two. Gosh darn it, we'd rather just deal with the flu. We accepted each setback as best that we could and rallied together to accomplish much good. Who knows how next year might come to play out. Problems still may persist, of that we've no doubt. Regardless of how the virus might play, we'll face it together, come however it may. So we are here now reviewing this year, knowing what we most treasure are the friends we hold dear. Reporting for the Horizon House community, your faithful correspondent, old Doggerel Pete. Thank you for your indulgence. Now something that is even more dear to my heart than my poetry is talking about our retiring members. There are 5 of us completing our terms of office on the Residents' Council at the end of this month. And I'll tell you about the contributions of my 4 colleagues who are in that group of 5. And as soon as I get the PowerPoint voted and shared, I'll begin. Okay, come on. My advice to Elizabeth is to have a technician at her side. next year. Okay, here we go, I think. Okay, first up is Marianne Anderson. She began her service on the council as a coordinator of committees. At various times, Marianne served as coordinator of the environment committees, classes, activities, and arts participation. During her first year, Marianne also served as assistant coordinator of the annual ERF drive, and then as its lead coordinator the next year, which was last year. When the council decided to launch a publicity campaign to raise awareness about the need for a second co-director of the Monday Market to begin next spring, I enlisted two residents whose work experience was in communications, May Gerstel and Sam Sperry. May and Sam were also longtime friends and had a historic relationship of working together, but not always agreeing right off the bat. Now, they told me that. I'm just quoting. I appointed Marianne as a third member of the ad hoc Monday Market Publicity Committee. She brought to the task her great understanding of the resident community and a temperament that provided metaphorical leavening for the metaphorical bread that Sam and May were baking. The goodness of the result is that we now have two future market directors, co-market directors of immense talent and capability, Jennifer Stucker and Barbara McCard. Thank you, my friend Marianne, my friend and colleague, for your huge contributions. During my freshman year on the Residence Council, our president, Madge Hislop, made the wise decision to appoint Susan to represent the council on the Horizon House Philanthropy Committee. There were other residents on the committee, but Susan's mission was to normalize relations between the campaign conducted by Horizon House, known as Partners in Caring, and the council's employee recognition fund drive. Questions such as which campaign started, when, how long would it last? Would there be a break between successive requests to residents for donations, and so forth? Susan succeeded in that mission, and there has been great cooperation and success ever since. Later that same year, Susan led the council's ERF drive. One issue was how would money that was raised be allocated to the employees? As described in the council minutes, quote, the existing policy of allocating distributions from the Employee Recognition Fund contains several flaws that have led to disparate and unfair results in some cases. Susan, continuing with the minutes, Susan can explain the problems and presented a new policy that will lead to more equitable distribution of funds. I remember the council meeting at which Susan presented the revisions she was suggesting in the policy to avoid presented the revisions that she was suggesting for the policy that would avoid those problems. Her presentation was clear, cogent, and created a new policy that subsequently proved to lead to fair allocations effectively and easily. Subsequently, Susan also served as coordinator of the activity room committees, the entertainment committees, as you heard in her report. She twice served as chair of the special nominating committee that is charged with nominating the residents, councils, officers, and executive leadership. I learned to call on Susan when I had complex issues to resolve and wanted someone to work through the issues with and discuss the merits of different possible solutions. I always found that ability in Susan, an extremely bright, sensitive, non-judgmental, and common sense person who has never let me down. Susan, it's been great having you as an esteemed colleague. George Counts began his resident council service as coordinator of meeting spaces for the council. The following year, he was elected vice president for programs. In that position, George was responsible for recommending council members to serve as committee coordinators and for supervising their work through the course of the year. George was also responsible for coordinating the development of each year's program book and assuring its timely publication and distribution. It's a 22-page document that helps approximately 250 residents make decisions regarding which committees they wish to join. In pre-COVID days, there would be a sign-up fair to kick off the process. The February 2020 monthly meeting of the council featured George's memorable appearance with top hat and whistle, singing, clapping his hands, and leading everybody in "Sign Up Days Are Here Again" to the tune of "Happy Days Are Here Again." Not long after that, though, COVID crashed into our lives. Horizon House management set up a COVID task force and asked George to lead a resident health advisory group. A profile in the Seattle Times soon afterward described Dr. George Counts III as, quote, one of the leading infectious disease doctors in the country. The COVID task force was hard work, and Dr. Counts was ideally qualified to understand and apply the regulations set up by the public health authorities to limit the spread of the virus, and apply those regulations in a way that made most sense for our community. All the while, George was fulfilling his responsibilities at the council. In addition to those already described, the VP for programs serves on the budget committee, and George was responsible for gathering the annual reports that went into this summary report that we're presenting right now. Dr. Counts, George, your fellow residents have heartfelt gratitude for your service and highest admiration for your humanity. Audrey, I spelled your name right again. One of Audrey's regular duties is to set up and lead the new resident orientations. Her knowledge and warm, open personality suited her ideally for this work. During Audrey's tenure, she had to deal with frequently changing COVID environments that impacted those orientation meetings. She always adapted successfully to these changes without complaint. Audrey's duties included monitoring the bylaws and policies for possible modification as needs and operations might dictate, overseeing administrative coordinators and volunteer office staffers, serving on the budget committee, and supervising elections, which also had seen the need for changing the procedures in response to COVID restrictions. All in all, Audrey has been a friendly, dependable companion for all of us on the council and rock solid in fulfilling her duties. We couldn't have kept going without her. Which leads me to say a few remaining words before we sign off. These years have been deeply enriching and satisfying for me, thanks to the great teammates you have been and the extraordinary work of so many program and activity committees. Reading over their committee reports, as I mentioned, was an overwhelming experience. I of course knew at one time or another just about all of their accomplishments during the course of 2021 as they came along, but taking them in, as it were, in one deep, long gulp provided another richer dimension to their accomplishments. So I look forward to a return to, quote, civilian life, and to use opposing metaphors, becoming a foot soldier in the ranks of a committee or two, and having the time to enjoy more of the programs and activities that will be taking place in 2022. Thank you, everybody. I was hoping that we'd have time to sing a song of farewell. Well, I'll start it. You can leave anytime you want because the business is over. And if I can get my fingers nimble enough and my brain nimble enough, I'll get it done. We'll see pretty soon. Let's give it a try.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together? sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again. Some trails are happy ones, others are blue. It's the way you ride that trail that counts. Here's a happy one for you. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the crowds if we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
The meeting is adjourned, but we'll let Roy and Dale and the singers sing us out.
Happy trails to you till we meet again.
Goodbye, everybody. Happy trails.